Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. If you're new here, my name is Mitchell. In today's episode, I'll be talking about weak men blame modern women. So today is an express episode, and I'd usually do this every Sunday at 5:30 Pacific time, 8:30 Eastern time. And so for today's episode, it's a recap episode of always playing the victim. And so the slide is on Psych to Go. The slide is on Psych to Go. Now, the reason why this is important is because most people will try to manipulate you. And when you're always playing the victim, what they will try to do is they will always try to manipulate you. They'll find ways to make you feel sorry for them, get you to abandon your own needs. They might not even be aware they're doing it themselves. And they might just feel like their needs are not met, and they may act kind of hostile. They place blame anywhere but themselves. You know, they do not do they take responsibilities of their own feelings? No. Made effort to improve their circumstances. Why my life sucks, I don't have any money, right? They make a lot of excuses like, oh, I'm too old. And you know, these are just type of people that always play victim. And the reason why most weak men like to blame modern women is because they don't want to take any type of responsibility of themselves. They don't think that they are part of the problem. So it's easier to just point the finger onto other people and just be like, hey, yo, this is not my fault. It's modern woman. So anyways, in today's express episode, now we're into the meat of the topic. All right. So usually what happens is if you act like a bitch, she will treat you like a bitch. And women are attracted to men who feel like they deserve to be there. Meaning that if I'm with a woman, it's way more attractive to her knowing that she is like, wow, I have a really good guy. I have a really good catch. But so what does that mean? It means that you have to put in the effort to become a better version of yourself. You might not be there yet, and that's okay. Everybody has to start somewhere, and where you have to start, that's where you could grow. That's where you could start elevating yourself. Because you can only act unworthy for so long until she really thinks, you know, you're right. You can only act unworthy so long until she's like, you know what, you're right. And feeling bad for yourself so that you can get other people's approval and assurance, that's weak. That's weak behavior. So the grass is greener where you water it. The grass is greener where you water it. If the other person doesn't see your value, continue to water your own grass and become better. Meaning, start to educate yourself. Begin a journey on how to improve yourself. But you know what the reality is? The reality is most people will do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. So that just means that most people, they're not going to be willing to put in the work. Or if they do, they're not going to want to put in the most amount of work. They're trying to find the easiest amount of work so that they could get the most amount of gain. And I can understand that to some degree. You know, you want to work smarter, not work harder. But a lot of people, they take shortcuts. They skip steps, and that's not a way to success. So you got to find a way in, not a way out. And if you complain that there's no other good women out there, you haven't looked hard enough, because there's plenty of women out there that's good enough. And you know what? You know what's the beauty of all this too is, eventually, if you don't become the best version of yourself, you're going to find yourself being single again. You're going to find yourself in the same rabbit hole. So until you become better, you're not going to find anyone better. And even if you do, it's one of those attainable successes, nothing that's sustainable for yourself. So you have to become better. Now, there's a quote that they used, or that they said where men cheat because it's in their nature. It is a woman's fault that she couldn't satisfy him. If he beats her, she provoked him. he's an alcoholic because he, his wife nags. And, to some degree, I can understand, like, maybe, you know what? It is a lot of work for a man, to become this leader, become this masculine figure that leads, and to always maintain that center. It becomes very difficult. It becomes overwhelming sometimes, but that's just a part of it. That's just a part of it. And you could have days where you don't feel your best, but it doesn't last very long. Like, you could complain and nag to your lady, but eventually, if you don't clean it up yourself, she's not going to want to be around you. So I get that, and also when you hear this type of quote where men cheat because of this, and she provoked him, and he's an alcoholic because of this, it's like, well, and then you get this group of community, this group of people where a bunch of people sit around and they complain, but never really do anything for themselves to become better versions of themselves, and it may get you this good feeling of, wow, I have people backing me up. People feel the same way too, so that I'm not alone in this hellhole, if you will. But what that does is it gives you this type of illusion that something change or something will change, and nothing else will change. Nothing else will change. The only change that you do is the change within yourself. So this illusion, it's false. It's a false thing to hold on to, and it's not real, okay? But doing something about it will make you become more successful. So example is, you want to fill in your knowledge gap. You want to be able to read books and understand how attraction works in this case. Because if you're a modern guy and you're just upset and you listen to a lot of red pill community and you're just complaining about how women are like this and women are like that, and this is how modern women are, well, you know what? You're not really putting in enough effort for yourself. Maybe you are hitting the gym, and that's great that you hit a nice PR, right? Like, you're working out and you're making a little bit more money. But then again, it's like, well, how are you going to maintain that type of success when a lady comes into your life? You have to understand, men and women communicate differently, and if you don't know what to look out for, you might get stuck. And eventually, you have to understand that a relationship goes through different phases. And while those are going through different phases, guess what's going to happen? You have to understand that, well, if she's trying to communicate with you, if she's trying to talk to you, the one thing that you, 9 out of 10 times, she just wants you to listen. Most guys will like to try to solve her problem. So that's why it's you have to understand, like, you have to put in the effort, you have to put in the work to understand that men and women communicate differently. So learn how to understand her language so that she can understand your language, right? Like, we like to solve things. That's part of masculine energy. You ever notice whenever your girl tries to tell you something and you're like, wait, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do that? Well, part of the problem is she just wants to talk about it. And when she talks about it, that's her feminine energy. That's her opening up, right? The more you talk, the more feeling it is. The more feeling based it is, the more feminine energy, right? And so when you allow her to just communicate, just talk to you and vent out, that's how she solves her problems. And as she's doing that, guess what? You don't really have to do much. All you have to do is just listen, ask questions, and you got, yes, you do. You got to be patient. You can't rush it like, oh, what's going on, right? Like, just listen to her. Most of the problems will be solved on her own. So, like I said, you gotta read books on how attraction works. Learn to understand the language of the other side instead of just speaking from what you currently know. So, I've seen this too many times where there's guys that be like, you know what, F your feelings, like, forget your feelings, because all you want to do is explain your perspective, and that doesn't really do anything. Now, the next one is vetting process. I go for people who understands with what I believe in. This is just me personally. Having similar goals and similar values. So part of the vetting process is, while you're dating someone, you want to want, first of all, you want to trust them 100%. You want to trust them 100%, to believe that you think, to think that there are still great people out there, and then you just allow them to reveal who they are as time passes. And most people could hide who they are for the first 90 days anyway. So you want to see, you want to vet your dating prospects. You want to understand, like, oh, what are your goals and what are your values, and does your value align with mine? Because if it doesn't, then it's going to cause a lot of friction in the relationship. So that's why I'm not going to sit around a woman that makes my life difficult. I think there was one video where there's this lady, she was like, I like to make my man hard, I don't want to make his life hard, right? So it's like, play on words, obviously, but I'm not looking for somebody that's trying to make my life more difficult, because life is already difficult as it is. So I'm looking for someone with similar goals and similar values, right? I refuse to be with someone that doesn't support me in what I do. I refuse. There's no way I will ever be with anybody that does not support what I do. That's the number one most important thing. Why? Because that's my purpose. And if you want to, if you enjoy being around me, you have to enjoy part of the things that I do too as well. And if not, it's okay. It's no big deal. There's plenty of other people in the world, right? So I'm looking for someone that complements my life, not make my life more miserable. So it's all about the vetting process. How do you vet properly? Guys that have been burned one too many times, or they one too many times more than they like to admit, they fail to see the problems really lie within themselves. Like a lot of problems that come up, you have the answer, you have a solution for it. It's just, yes, it requires a lot of work. What's up, Crystal? How's it going? So it's easy to say, that all modern women are like this and all modern women are like that. But, have you ever, if all you have ever messed with were people that were shitty women, shitty people, shitty humans, right? Like, it's easy to just complain about other people being shitty and just put the blame on them instead of putting the blame on yourself. No. Because you don't vet properly. You lack personal responsibilities on your poor choices. So then you blame it on modern women, right? You're here because you don't want a mediocre life. That's the purpose of my videos, is because you're here, you're like, I'm tired of having a mediocre life and you want an extraordinary life. So no, like, you're trying to make good choices, and thank you for being here. And you must save yourself. You must save yourself, right? So the superior man blames himself. The inferior man blames other people, by Don Shula, right? Because at the end of the day, when you blame other people, whatever the terminology you want to use, right? You may be thinking that, like, oh, for example, hypergamy, it's modern woman. It's their true nature. You're saying that what you're really saying is, I don't really need to change anything about myself. It's their fault. So it's no different than really just watching. I always like to use the example of the show Jerry Springer, because if you watch Jerry Springer, right, or you watch, is it Maury Show or something like that, where basically it's, or what was it, Judge Judy? Basically, it's other people having more difficult time than you are. It's very easy to get sucked in and fall in and just get kind of curious with the dilemma that they're dealing with, because first of all, you're not dealing with the same problem, or maybe you are, right? But it's easy to get sucked into that, because most of the time you're just going to be like, well, wow, like, look at that person. That person has a way more difficult life than I have right now. I'm actually doing all right. And even though you're not, you're like, damn, I'm actually not doing at least I'm not doing as bad as they are. At least I'm not doing as bad as they are, so that I don't really have to do anything about myself to change. And that's a very scary thought to think about, because where most people, if I just switched and just be like, you know what, it's not your fault, and I put the blame on other people, you could for sure 100% I would get way more traction. But to put the blame on yourself and take the personal responsibility on your own to take action to better your life, well, guess what's gonna happen? one, when you start improving your life, instead of blaming other people, and I'm just not blaming modern women, right? It's just like when you stop blaming other people and you start taking more accountability and more responsibility of your own actions, and you start asking yourself, well, how can I fix this? And what are some solutions? You become more competent. You become a person that solves problems. And so when problems do come up, guess what's gonna happen? You're not gonna look over your shoulder and be like, hey, what do I have to do? You're gonna be sitting there thinking like, damn, this is what I'm gonna do. And guess what? If you mess up, you're gonna be wondering, well, what did I do that messed up, and how can I improve that so that it doesn't happen again, instead of just always looking over, asking someone for some advice. You know what I mean? And in the beginning, you're going to have somebody with you to understand. It's like, well, I don't understand this. What is your train of thought? And eventually, if you start listening to certain people, you're going to start picking up their habits and their behaviors, and success leaves clues. And so when you see successful people that got there, it's like, first of all, it's not easy work. There's no such thing as easy work. It might be a little bit easy if you're having a good time. It doesn't feel like time's passing by or it doesn't seem like time just flies by, right? And it's kind of like me whenever I learn certain facts. And when I learn certain things and light bulbs just pop up, I'm just like, wow, this is very interesting. So time just passes by. So it doesn't seem like it's a lot of work, but it doesn't take away the fact that you're still putting the time for that work. Best way to get over a horrible divorce. What's up, Justice? How's it going? The best way to get over a horrible divorce. Well, first of all, I think, and this is what my coach says. First, you always want to understand, well, what city, what state do you live in? And because that matters too, right? Like who's taking half, who's taking what, right? And it could get very sour very fast. And in terms of getting over a horrible divorce, you want to be able to get yourself out there. And I'm not just saying like go out there and just start hooking up. Maybe that might work for you, maybe it might not. But being out there might clear your mind a little bit. Hanging out with good people, good friends that's willing to like sit down and, talk to you and just hear you out. That's number one. That's very important. I would say that. And then also you want to start looking back at some of the things that caused that divorce, because Justice, I'm not sure if you're a male or female. That will help me a lot too. But, about 70 to 75% of divorces or breakups are initiated by women. About 70 to 75%. And so when you look at that statistics, you're male. So when you look at that type of statistics and you understand that, all right, well, what were some of the things that I overlooked? What were some of the things that I did? What were some of the things that I didn't do, right? Because that's going to cause her to want to leave. Now, I said 70 to 75%. If I was a betting man and I had to place a bet, and I don't know you, right? I don't know you, Justice. She cheated, right? So because she's the one that cheated. Now, what I would say is, if she's a cheater, that's her character. Okay, that's her character. So in this case, you're the one that I'm understanding that you're the one that initiated the whole divorce. You're like, you know what, this is what happened, right? Now, if character is destiny, if that's who she is, that's what's going to happen. Regardless, maybe she might have a lot of high interest, and she won't cheat on you. She won't do anything. But eventually, it's like a ticking time bomb. You can only delay the process of her cheating on you, right? Yeah, so you got fed up. So some of the things what were you overlooking? Were you like, well, what were some? So there's always something that you could pick out from this divorce, right? You could always look at it as like, well, okay, maybe I chose a wrong person. Maybe I chose a cheater, and regardless of what I done or what I did, regardless of what that happens, she would have always cheated anyways, right? But let's just excuse that, okay? Let's just not look at that. She's a cheater. That's what's gonna happen. Now, what you want to look out for is, well, what were some of the things that I've overlooked when I was getting involved with this woman, with this person, right? And you want to ask yourself, well, what were some of the things that I've done and haven't done? Because there's two biggest reasons why most people break up. And it's because, one, she stops feeling heard and understood. And number two, you stop dating and courting her. That's usually those two biggest things. Okay? Two biggest things. Now, this also means that you have to take care of your foundation, meaning like, well, is there a roof over your head? Do you have a car that runs, I guess, you know, if you need a car to go to work and things like that? Do you have a job? Like, these are just like foundation stuff that you should already have. But in a relationship, you have to make sure she feels heard and understood, and you're dating and courting her. Okay? I know I went a little bit of a tangent, but what was I saying? You must save yourself. So let me finish this off, and then I'll hear you out, Justice. But Justice, if you want to continue typing out some of the things you want to say, I'd love to hear you out and help you out, right? So let's see. Okay, so you must save yourself, where most people would be like, you know, this hypergamy, it's modern woman, it's their true nature, this is who they are, these are the people that's going to cheat, blah blah blah, right? Like, when in reality, you have to understand, you have to make sure in reality you understand yourself and the other person. You have communication, you understand each other. Okay, a relationship is not a competition of who had it more difficult, because let's face it, how far did getting resentful, bitter, and upset really get you in life, right? I'm so over her, but now her and her new boyfriend are stalking me. That is something that, like, you might need like authorities to kind of get involved if they're like, you know, I'm not a professional at that, okay? I just help on how to become better, right? And it seems like when they're stalking you, they're causing you more problems, right? More harm than good. So you're already over her. She cheated. So you're wondering, why is this person, why are they stalking you, right? That seems like that's tough. That's tough. I'm gonna need a little bit more if you want me to help you out. So, but yeah. Most people like to blame modern women, and instead, so the moral of this whole live is, instead of blaming people, instead of blaming, oh, this is how women are, all women are like this, you know, to some degree, yes, I can understand there is some truth behind this, but being bitter and being upset about this isn't really gonna get you anywhere. What's going to get you to understand and become more successful is by understanding, well, if I'm a male and I'm the masculine energy in that relationship, how am I going to act? What were some of my behaviors that's going to help facilitate a better relationship? So masculine energy is about purpose, it's about drive, it's about mission. Okay, that's masculine energy, right? It's overcoming challenges, and it's breaking through barriers. It's just, you know, taking risk, calculated risk, not just blind risk, but calculated risk. So it's really going for what you want. Feminine energy, on the other hand, is about bonding, connecting, opening up to receive love, right? And just creating. So like I said, like, think about having a baby. That's that type of energy. Let's see, what do you say? Stalking just doesn't let me move on sometimes. I see. That seems like that's something that you will need to contact authority if it becomes a problem. You know, like it sounds like you're already over it. She cheated on you and you're like, I'm out, I'm done, whatever happened, it's out, just leave me alone. At this point, it's been 6 years. It's been 6 years since they stalking you, or it's been 6 years since the whole breakup, or you guys been together for 6 years. So since the divorce, okay, yeah, they have a motive. Everybody has a motive. Okay, if they're stalking you for 6 years, maybe it's something that, you know, there has, like I said, it has to be a motive. But yeah, I think that's it. That's all the slides that I have for today. Modern women. And it's interesting. The reason why I chose this video was because, or this express session videos. Wow, 25 years together. That's a very long time. If you don't mind me asking, Justice, when did you feel like it was, at what point did it feel like you're just roommates? At what point did it just feel like you're roommates? Because a lot of people, they might be in a relationship, but it's like they're not really fully together. They're just kind of like, oh, you're on your phone, I'm on my phone, right? Wow, good question. Yep. This live is just about you at this point. About 6 years ago, okay. What kind of changes have you? What kind of changes did you started noticing within, like, her behaviors? Because, you know, my coach always says the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the quality of the questions that you consistently ask yourself. So if you're asking yourself quality questions, you're going to get some good quality answers back, right? Narcissistic behavior. Okay, so for 25 years, you've been together. So about year 19, that was when you started noticing these type of behaviors, right? And these type of behaviors caused her to act in ways that kind of betrayed your trust, right? Okay. Now, were there some signs? Were there certain things that you noticed? Because, you know, after 25 years of being married, during year 19, about year 19, right? That was when you started noticing these type of behaviors starting to change. Lots of signs. Were there signs prior to that? This I feel like this is gonna be a lot longer 30-minute express episode. None. There were no signs. Absolutely none. Okay, now remember when I said that if she's a cheater, she's gonna cheat regardless of what you do. Especially so, and she won't cheat on you if the excitement, if her interest level, if her attraction level is high. She's not gonna even think about another man. She's not even like, I love my man, right? But like I said, you gotta excuse that, because if they're gonna cheat, they're gonna cheat. A good person, what they're gonna do, now this is a person that comes from a good home, okay? And I'm not saying people that comes from broken homes don't have a shot. I'm just saying that usually what I look out for is, I like to see what type of relationship she has with her father. And the reason why is because usually if there's a father, there's a better shot. Now, if the father is very grounded and he's a very masculine figure, he won't take her shit, but also like kind of keeps her grounded, because feminine energy is very chaotic. I like to look at that and be like, well, what's her relationship with her father? And if the father's even around or things like that. And then I start listening. So when I figured out she was cheating, that's when we became like roommates. Okay. And like I said, she's a cheater. She cheated on you. That's nothing that we could take away from that. But what we can start to dissect is that were there some things that you didn't do. Okay, this is where you could become a better person, so that you could extract some sort of greatness or some learning lessons from your past marriage, right? Which is, did you make sure you made her feel heard and understood? Did you listen to her, or were you guys arguing a lot? Because I've always said that men who understands women, you don't argue with them. And I get a lot of shit for it. It's like, what? You're not supposed to argue with women. Like, what if you disagree? It's like, well, if you disagree, then you could disagree. You don't have to argue. You could just have a debate. Meaning you don't have to yell. You don't have to get confrontational. I can't speak words right now, but she says I'm the best provider I was the best provider in the end. Okay. So you provided. So you had a roof over your head, you paid for all the bills, and you were there. So that's still, those two questions still remains. Did you make her feel heard and understood? Did you feel heard and understood? Did you listen to her? Does she feel like, oh my God, if I was her, did she go to you and was like, can she be the person that vents to you and you just be the sounding board? Because that's very important. A woman needs to feel appreciated, to feel like you're there, to make her feel like, damn, this man cares. That's number one. And also, number two is, do you stop dating and courting her? Because I've always give the example. She was chasing a law career. Even if she has high interest, she will still go on dates with you. It doesn't matter. If she has high interest, her chasing a law career, a law degree didn't stop her from going out with that other dude, right? So somewhere along the line, something happened, and that's part of your job to kind of figure it out so it doesn't happen again, right? When I noticed that went bad, yeah. So maybe there was somebody in there. Was it the same person, I have about a few more minutes over here. I don't know, Justice, I don't know if you have a TikTok. If you have a TikTok, I'll suggest maybe heading over to TikTok, because that's where I usually do my lives. And so I think what I'm gonna do after this is I'm gonna head over there. It's the same handle, so Mr. Mitchell Tang, and now I'll go live over there for a little bit and see, maybe I can answer some of your questions over there. All right. Yeah, of course. Any last questions that you'd like to ask? Any last question? I'll wait for one more. All right. It is very hot today. It is very hot. I need to change this shirt. I need something a little bit looser. I'm all good just from that chat. Okay. All right. Well, I hope that advice helps you. Today's the express episode that I do. If you're ever interested, I do my other episodes, and it's usually an hour long, and I like to answer some questions too along the line with live chat. It's every Saturday at 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. I'm not sure where you're from, but 12 p.m. Pacific time, Saturdays at 12, and it's always a new topic. It's usually a new topic, and so Sundays are my days where I have an express episode, which is an episode I've done in the past, and I like to review it. I feel not safe from being stuck, and this what bothers you. Yeah, that would be something that you wanna. I mean, I'm not like I'm not an FBI or anything. I'm not a cop, right? But you will have to talk to some authorities and see what are some of the things that you can do to have them stop stalking you. Because that's something that I will not step into just because I don't know that much. I really don't. But if you're ever curious on how to improve your life, on finding a better person, finding a right person, I'm here to help. All right. That being said, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna head over to TikTok. I'm gonna do a little short live over there and see how everyone's doing. All right. All right. You're welcome.